Hello pattern lovers, you're welcome and welcome back. It's yet another exciting tutorial, and in today's video we'll be drafting and illustrating this style. It's a midi flared dress. The skirt has this stylish drape effect going on the front skirt, and then there's also a slit on the side. Then for the upper bodice we can see a keyhole around the shoulder and also the upper arm area. The sleeve is a bell sleeve with some pearl details at the hem. So if you're interested in learning how to go about the cutting of this beautiful dress, kindly watch this video to the very end and let's get right into it. So starting with the upper part and starting with the front, I'll go ahead and get the shoulder measurement divided by 2 on the shoulder line. Then I'm going to go down to my chest line, which I'm using 8.5 for this tutorial. Then on that point again, I'm going to get the shoulder measurement divided by 2 just to have a straight line. Then I'm going to mark it out just same way you can see me do it. The next thing I'll do now is to mark here, slope the shoulder. Then I'll come here and come down by 1.5. Then I'm going to plant it to the 3 inches I have as the neck width yet. Now I'm going to the bust band on the bust point and also on the waistline, and then I'm going to mark a straight line to connect the 2 points. I'll come on both sides of this new line. I'll be taking in 0.75, and that's 1.5 for the that intake for the front. Then I'm going to slant it to the bust point just as you can see me do it here. The next thing I'll be doing now is to get the bust measurement divided by 4 on the chest line. Then I'll go to the waistline and take the waist measurement divided by 4 plus the 1.5 that intake. Then I'm going to connect the 2 measurements like this. Now I'll come down here by 1.5 for the bust dart and then slant it to the bust span just the same way you can see me do it. The next thing I'll do now is to come here and get the midpoint of this shoulder slope and then connect it to the bust span just the same way you can see me do it here. Now I'm going to get the neck width, and to make it easy for me, I'm going to measure from this line to the amount of bridge I want between the neckline and the keyhole. Do you get that? So you're going to mark it here, then I'll measure to the center front to see that I have 4 inches. So basically I'm using 4 inches as the neck width for the front and then 3.5 as the neck depth for the front. Then I'm going to give it a round shape because that's the neckline. Now going for what is on the thumbnail, you're simply going to place your curve this way and curve the armhole like that. But I'm making this pattern like I want to use it, so I won't be comfortable with that much opening. So what I'll do is to measure these 2 points, the shoulder tip to the midpoint of the shoulder slope, and then I'm going to determine how much opening I'll be comfortable with, okay, which is around there. From the shoulder tip I came in 2 inches, then the other 0.625 would be for the that. There's a clear difference. You might be wondering, is it not the same thing? But like I said, there's a clear difference. So I will be comfortable with this amount of opening, but for what is on the thumbnail, just go ahead and curve it to the midpoint of the shoulder slope to get that. Now the next thing we'll be doing now is to contour this curve because it will gape if you leave it like this. So you're going to go to where it's likely to gape, which is around here for my case. So I'm going to take out 1 inch because that's how much I know this part is going to gape. If I measure it, you see that I have just 1 inch. If you feel like yours will still gape, go ahead and do more. But if you feel like 1 inch is too much, go ahead and do less than 1 inch, but 1 inch works for my size. Okay, now moving over to the back pattern, I'll get the shoulder measurement divided by 2 and go down to the chest line and get the shoulder measurement divided by 2 again. Then I'm going to just make it meet the already existing chest for the front. My 4 inches neck width and then 3 inches to get the shoulder slope. Then I'll come here by 1 inch and slant it to the 3 inches. You get that? And now I'm going to go down to 3.5 because that's also what I want to use as the neck depth for the back. Then I'm going to give it a round shape. Yeah, and that will be the neck. Now I'm going to get the back length, which is 15 and a half. The front length is 17 inches, then the back length is 15 and a half. The 1.5 is what I used as the bust dart. Do you remember? Then from the center back, I'm coming in 1 inch, and then I'm going to contour it, place my curve this way to like connect it up, and that will be the center back contour line, because the center back is not straight as. Now, from this new line, I'll be taking in the bust measurement divided by 4 on the chest line. Then I'll come to the waist and take the waist measurement divided by 4. There's no that intake for the front. But then one thing I'll do on for the bust is minus inch. This is so I'll minus half inch from my bust measurement divided by 4 for this back. Do you get? And then I'm going to curve the armhole this way. I mean, the back, my fabric is a bit stretchy, so I won't be needing that. Then I'll follow the center back contour line and add my 1 inch zipper allowance. Comfortable working with 1 inch zipper allowance, go ahead and do it. But if you want to do less, you can also do it. Whatever you're comfortable using as your zipper allowance, you go and do it at this point. Then the next thing I'm going to do now is to go ahead and separate these two patterns. Then I'll first cut out the back pattern, and then I'll cut the front pattern. So while cutting, you watch what I'm doing. The part is it's not hard. You're simply going to open up the waist dart so that you can be able to close the bust dart, and you can see that I'm using my water glue to. We will also be closing the gaping dart the same way you can see me do it here. Then after that, I'm going to cut every other part just as you can see me do it. Just remember to always blend in your dart after closing it. You can see that I'm blending in this side. Then now I'm going to cut this part out. You can see that I'm not following the actual armhole cut. Then I will open up the dart on one dart line, and then apply my water glue and then place it on the other dart line. Now I'm going to use my curve to blend in this curve, because you can see that it's now distorted. Okay, so I'm trying to make it obvious so that you see that this is the armhole we are going for. And now I'm simply going to cut out every other line that you can see here, just like this. So yeah, after cutting out your pattern, you're going to match it up, and even after transferring to your fabric, you match it up before sewing so that you don't have one side longer than the other. Now let's talk about the skirt. Okay, so we are going to do a little calculation because you are doing 180 degrees flare, not a full flare. So the waist circumference I'm working with is 27, and you're going to divide your waist circumference by 3.14, and for my case it gives me 8.59872611, which I will just approximate this plenty number to 8.5. Okay, so you're going to approximate to the nearest number. You can also decide to work with the whole number if you want. So now we are going to do radius plus length. This 8.5 now is the radius, and then the length for the skirt is 28 inches. That's like your gown length minus the half length. That should be the skirt length. Okay, so that's 8.5 plus 28, that's 36.5. But while folding the fabric, I'll be doing 40 inches. Okay, so instead of folding that 36.5, I'll be folding 40 inches because we'll be adding to the radius and also to the length. Do you get? So now let's say this is your fabric, and this is where you usually measure your yardage. You're first going to measure your 40 inches, and then you measure another 40 inches, and then you fold the fabric. You fold the first 40 inches to the second 40 inches. You already know how to cut your 180 degrees, yeah? So now after folding it, let's assume it's like this. Now this is your 40 inches here, and then now you're going to take it like this. Do you get? In a way that you have one part folded and the other part open. Do you get? Just like this. Like I said, you already know how to go about your 180 degrees, but if it's still confusing, watching this, go ahead and watch out to go cut 180 degrees flare. Now you're going to mark your radius. In this case, I should mark 8.5, but let's assume I'm marking 10 inches. Then the length is supposed to be 28 here. I'm marking 30 inches here. That's the reason why I said you should fold more than what you calculated, so that you have excess on the radius and then the excess on the length too. So you should have your waist circumference plus at least 4 inches. You get, after marking the radius, you should measure it and make sure you have your waist circumference plus extra 4 inches, because you'll be needing those allowance. Okay, after cutting, you should have something like this. Like I said, it's not a full circle, it's a half circle. And now you're going to open it here, like make it two pieces instead of this one piece you're seeing here. I'm going to open it here to have two pieces, one piece for the front and then the other piece for the back. Okay, you have joining on both sides for the reference style. That's why we are doing it like this. And now let's assume that this is the front part. Okay, you're going to measure where you want your slit to be. If you want to do it on your bust span, like use your bust span so that it will sit directly on your lap, you can do it. You can also decide to make it stop 2 inches before the other bust span, as you can see it on the thumbnail. The one on the thumbnail did not get all the way to the bust span. It stops 2 inches before the other bust span, and then once you get where you want it to sit, you're going to mark it straight like this. You get, just mark it straight down like this from that waistline. Then you're going to notch the two sides so that you know that that part is the two sides. Another thing you should make sure is that this line, this your slit, you're marking it where you want it to sit on your body, either the left or the right hand side of your body. You're going to determine that. Okay, and then you're going to cut this out. You have to pay attention to this part, because this, yeah, every part of the dress matters, but I feel like this part is the utmost. Now come to the side and come up from 10 inches upwards, or you can decide to come down from the waist to your hip line, then you add 6 inches or 5 inches to that. Then whatever it is you have on the side, you're going to add 6 inches to that, and then you go up. Yeah, you mark it on this side that you can see me cut out here. That's what you should have. Whatever it is you have on the side, you're adding 6 inches to that, and then you're going up to that. Yeah, like you're marking it to this other side. Then this part, you're going to cut it all through for your zipper, or you can decide to cut it to where you want your zipper to stop if you know how to work with that. Or better still, just cut it all through. Now you're going to bring in a fresh paper. We'll be cutting out what that draping effect, that's what you want to cut out now. You're going to fold your fabric like this, and then you're going to measure this. You see this bigger flare, you're going to measure the waist like this. This is the bigger flare. Okay, you're going to measure the radius like the waist like that, and then you're going to mark it here. So this paper is on fold. I measured 2 inches on the flare, and I'm supposed to mark 1 inch because the paper is folded, but I mistakenly marked 2 inches. Then whatever it is you have on the waist, you're going to add 6 inches, and in this case that this paper is folded, I'm simply going to add 3 inches. Do you get? Now, since you're working with the bigger flare, I'm going to mark what I have here too. This flare is like this. I hope you're not confused. Okay, what I have here, I'll mark it here too, since we are working with the bigger flare. Then you're going to measure from that point to the waistline. Whatever you have there, you're going to double it. In this case, I have 4.5. I should mark 9 inches here, but this is not up to, so I'm going to make this, fold this paper in a way that it will give me that 9 inches, and it's like this now. So I'll mark my 9 inches, and then that thing that I measured on the waistline of this bigger flare, I'm going to mark it here. And I said I should mark half of that since this paper is folded. Then whatever it is you have on the waist, you're going to add 6 inches. And if your fabric is folded, you're adding just extra 3 inches to that, so that you have 6 inches by the time you open it up. Do you get? I hope this is not confusing. That's why I say this tutorial is like pattern drafting and illustration. So I'm trying to illustrate. I do not have enough paper to be doing it a normal human being size. Okay, So after cutting it out, we should have something like this, except that the waist is supposed to be 1 inch. But I'll still be correcting that later on in this tutorial. So by the time I open it up, I have something like this. Then you're going to curve it here, and to make it easy for you, you're going to measure what you have here, okay? Measure it, then you double it, or you even make it times 4 of what you measured. So I have 2, 4, 6, and I'm doing times 3 of that. Then I'm going to curve it from this side to this side like this. Just make sure you have something slanted. However you choose to do it depends on you. Now you're going to place it where you marked that this piece is going to stop, and then you start pleating until you exhaust all the allowance. Okay, so I'll try to do that now. This paper is really thick, not the regular pattern paper we use. So I'm going to try to pleat, and while doing this you should be looking at the picture too, so that you know where the pleat, where it starts and where it ends. But you should make sure that you exhaust all your allowance and make sure that it stops where you marked for this particular piece to stop at. Okay, then you're going to, you should be doing this on your sewing machine anyway, or if you choose to use pin to do it before you go ahead and stitch it on the flare, it's still okay. Okay, you should have something like this. Then you're going to come to this other side, and then you give like 1 inch space from the waistline, and then you start pleating, and you make sure that it stops where you also marked for this particular side to stop. And then again, look at the picture so that you know the direction that the pleat is going, so that you have the exact same thing by the time you're done with yours. Okay, doing this with this paper was quite a struggle, and it was at this moment that I realized that I didn't do the piece well, like it's not aligning on the waistline. So I'm going to fold it again, then mark the same 1 inch I should have marked earlier, and then slant it this way and cut off the excess like this. And then I'm now going to repeat the same thing. You're going to start pleating where you marked, yeah, for the piece to stop, and then you pleat, like you exhaust the allowance you have there. You repeat the same thing on the other side, and you should have something like this by the time you're done. Had it been this paper is a bit soft, it would have formed a nice drape for you to see it. Then you're going to join the other smaller flare to the bigger one, and then you stop where you want your slit to be. Then the back, I already said you should open it up, fix your zipper, and then fix the upper part. Now for the sleeve, you're going to fold a paper and make sure you have excess added to whatever you usually use to cut out your basic sleeve. Let's say I usually use 9 inches to cut out my basic sleeve. I'm going to add extra 2.5 to 3 inches to that. Can you see? You should have excess like this. Then now for the length, you should have, it should be a long sleeve, of course, and it should not be less than your wrist. It should get to your wrist and even more than that. Then you're going to come to this side and come down to what you usually use to curve your basic sleeve, and then you go ahead and curve it out this way. Even though mine appears deep here, but you already get the memo. Okay, then you're going to connect it from this point to the hem of the sleeve, like the length of the sleeve, and then you're going to blend in this other part so that yeah, it should flare on the down part, not from the up down. Okay, then you come up 1.5 on this side to slant it so that it's not really pointy on that side, and then you cut it out. It's as simple as that. Make sure you add as much excess as you want it to flare. That's the only thing. Okay, then now you're going to notch one side, and you know that that part will be going to the front armhole. Now what you're going to do to that part is to take off this curve. You see this sleeve cap, you're going to take off the curve like this, blend it in smoothly like that, and then when you're done with that, you should have something like this, and then you go ahead and notch the midpoint of the sleeve. It's very important so that you don't miss that by the time you want to fix it to the armhole. Okay, now the next thing you will do after taking off the curve on the front armhole, you're going to take out 2 inches from that part. Okay, let's label this front and back. And now you're going to come to this side, you come in 2 inches, and that 2 inches is because we tighten the front armhole with 1 inch while cutting the upper part, right? Now The other 1 inch is because your shoulder is kind of sloped going to your armhole, going to the arm rather. So this 2 inches is just like to contour the sleeve so that it will sit well on the upper arm with no gaping, yeah, or no excess. And then this 2 inches too is pretty much standard because you're cutting out this sleeve with the same value you usually use to cut out your sleeve for your size, not for somebody else's size. So if you're sure that this what you have here will go around your armhole with no excess, then do this 2 inches. It will work just fine for any size. Okay, then you blend it in this way and then you go ahead and cut it out and your sleeve is set. And that basically it for this tutorial. We have the sleeve, we have the skirt, and we have the half length, which is just it. So go ahead and transfer this to your fabric, add the necessary allowance, and if you have any questions regarding this, kindly drop them in the comment section and I'll do well to respond. I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye.